So, you've been in the Orchestra Philharmonic de Luxembourg for already a few years. You started there when you were 21. I mean, apart from being amazing, like congratulations for being 21 when you got the job. This is, I don't know many people who did that. Can you talk a bit about the orchestra first? What kind of orchestra? Because it's only symphony orchestra. It's based in Luxembourg. And do you do tours? Do you rehearse a lot? Concerts? Can you tell a bit how the orchestra works?
So the orchestra is, I didn't know much actually before I came to Luxembourg about the orchestra. I knew some friends that were playing there and who invited me to do the audition. But basically, yeah, it's only symphonic. We do 2 productions of opera a year because there's no opera house in Luxembourg. So yeah, twice a year we have, so it's a little chance to do some opera repertoire. But other than that, we do symphonic programs. The thing is, like, we have the great chance to have a really wonderful hall. So Luxembourg Hall is like, it's one of the nicest in Europe. So the Philharmony is actually really like, there's a really great energy coming from it at the moment. And so the orchestra, you know, takes a lot of things from that, because then you have like amazing conductors coming, really great soloists also. And then also it's pretty funny because like Luxembourg is not a very well-known country, but as we are I wouldn't say the only orchestra, but like we are really the main one. Like politically, we are really the national orchestra, and for the country, it does matter a lot. And so then we tour quite a lot also because of that, because we are really representing Luxembourg abroad. So every year we have at least like 1 European tour. We went to South America actually a few years ago, to Korea last year. We're going back next year also. So like, we have a lot of things ongoing because of that, and I feel really lucky about that, you know, to have and also it feels like there were no time where the orchestra has been as good as it is now, you know, like now it's happening, and like every year, every season we're like, yeah, this is getting so nice, and everyone has such a great vibe and such a great energy about playing the music, making nice programs, finding new, like we just found a new conductor also for the orchestra. So, you know, it's, and I don't find sometimes, like, obviously joining a really great orchestra is an amazing thing, but also being in a group where you feel like you have a good pace and good, you feel good about the group, you feel good about the music you're doing. That's also like something that is so precious, you know. So I feel really lucky. Even the clarinet section, like, I'm so glad with my group. Like, this is the nicest group I can dream about. And having this makes the music making also much different. And making music around people you like. And, you know, I could have the chance to record the concertos, like the Weber concerto with my group. I mean, with the orchestra, the Philharmonie and stuff. And like, I don't know many orchestras and many houses that could let one of their musicians to record his CD with the orchestra, because yeah, obviously it's an amazing opportunity. So yeah, but that Luxembourg, yeah, it's great. And also have some, because I have good contacts with my colleagues, which I feel is one of the most important things. Because we handle, like, you know, like we have like this really close connection together, then we are also really flexible because we help each other. So if anything comes up for any one of us, like then we'll help each other. And like obviously like you know, like last minute change for anyone can, you know, we arrange each other as much as we can. And if you have like a lot of things going on the side, then this is also like a great chance, because yeah, you can say yes to things. You know, you can either gig in other orchestras, or like you can do your own projects. You can drive your own life like easier.
And like coming back a bit to your age when you joined, 21 years old, you were like in that time where you're studying in CNSM, and then you were just like, I want this job. You just were you doing auditions? How was your preparation? How was your training for that?
It's funny because like I realize now that I was actually like I was so young when I joined the orchestra, and I don't think I knew really much what it asked to be an orchestra musician. That's the funny thing. It's like, so the story is a bit longer, but I guess here we are for talking a little bit. So let's go for it. No, so you know how difficult it is for clarinet player to find a job. Like auditions are very hard, and I came from that education with all my teachers saying like, you should do orchestra auditions like the soonest you can, because even if you don't want a job like super early, you have to get used to that really specific exercise of like playing you know, like excerpts and like, you know, having these rounds and these really weird days where you have like all the rounds and hundreds of players coming to, you know, to do all of these things. And so I knew about that, and I did really young actually the Gustav Mahler Jungen Orchestra. I did that in 2017, and yeah, for the first time in 2017. But the funny thing is like this was like an amazing chance. That was so good, and I loved so much to be a part of it. But the first two I was only doing bass clarinet and contrabass clarinet. Actually, basically only contrabass clarinet, in like a Webern piece and a Schoenberg piece. And when everyone was playing like Bruckner Symphony, Schumann, I was seeing all of my friends playing, and I was like not playing because like they didn't need me, you know. But I was so happy to be a part of the group or part of the tour, and it was one of the greatest experiences, and I can only recommend to any players to do one of these youth orchestras. But so I was so glad, but also so frustrated, and at the end of the tour I was like, I want to do more orchestra. Like this is like the greatest feeling, but I didn't play much and I want to do more. And so at the end of that tour, the London Symphony, they opened trial for the bass clarinet, and this was my like first orchestra audition. But I really did it, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the audition, and because I want to do more orchestra, you know. And so I cancelled basically everything I had, and I just practiced the bass clarinet for like 2 or 3 months, like a lot. And I remember like I was so, you know, like so driving by this audition, you know, like every morning practicing, afternoon working on the recordings with the score and stuff, and evening practicing again. And I think I never practiced as good as I did at that time, because I had like this kind of energy. And so the funny thing is like I got the trial at that time, and I didn't really play in orchestra before that, and I learned everything over there with the London Symphony. And yeah, so I stayed there for a year, and they did like a trial for a year, but at the end of the trial they didn't take any one of those of us. And coming back from it, I was like, oh, this was so great and stuff. I want to do more orchestra, but also like maybe let's find like a job somewhere where I can play also clarinet, because I was only playing bass clarinet and stuff. And so basically like a few months afterwards, the audition in Luxembourg came. I did the audition, and then it worked out. But I feel like when I won the audition, I was like, I have nothing, like, you know, I'm not like a principal clarinet player. I don't know what it is to be playing in an orchestra as this position. I just knew how to play excerpts. I just knew how to win an audition at that time. Like, I was so lucky to get this one. But then I remember I called my teacher at that time, and I was like, yeah, I don't feel ready for that, you know. I'm so blessed. I won the audition, I won the thing, but now I actually have to play in the orchestra every week and to prepare for this. Like, I remember like the first year we did like 3 tours in a year, and we had like Rhapsody in Blue and like Rachmaninoff symphonic dances, and we had like all of these like amazing repertoire to prepare, and I was like, and the funny thing is like, the funny advice he gave me, and I really keep it because was really great at that time, is like, you know, like, just do everything, you know, when it comes. It's like, you do audition, good, and then okay, you'll have to play in the orchestra, and like, you'll just try to adapt the quickest you can, but like, you cannot prepare things too much in advance, and like, then you arrive to the orchestra and you kind of fake it until you make it, in a way, you know, like pretend you can do it, pretend you know, and just try the best you can, and you will see, like, you at some point you won't fake it, like it's gonna come, and if you're like well surrounded and you accept to just learn and to try a lot of things, then it's gonna work out. But and I remember like the first days I was like a bit lost, and then like you adapt. I believe like everyone, like if you don't have too much ego and stuff, and you come and you try to learn the most you can from the colleagues, and just check how the principal oboe is doing, how the principal flute is playing, and just try to have the same kind of engagement in the orchestra, because they were like much more experienced players at that time.
It's a very interesting approach, yeah, very nice. But then combined with that, you didn't have enough with the orchestra, you didn't have enough with playing bass clarinet and contrabass clarinet, and then you said like, I'm gonna learn jazz. How did you get there? Was that because the first teacher you had just did a bit of jazz, or how did you always had interest? How does the jazz interest come from?
The funny thing is like, first of all, I feel it's interesting to have, you know, to talk about classical music and jazz as separate things. But most of it, I just like to play music, like, and whatever, you know, like the musical feeling when you come out of a concert of amazing jazz, or like of a Bruckner symphony. I know like the pace is different, the music is different, but like just like the fact of being a musician and to play these things, I feel like at some point it's just the same nature, you know. And so I don't like so much to make like to make, you know, to make everything in a box and saying like, I'm only a classical musician, I don't do this, and you know, like if you feel like trying things, like just try. And I came to the jazz actually really young, because my first teacher, the saxophone teacher I started with, he was actually a jazz player, and at that time, I don't know, I had like this really big desire of doing this music, and I was just trying things. I had like a little band in Alsace also, like a gypsy jazz ensemble, and we were just like, you know, trying to chill and evening seeing my friends and just like trying to play the Django Reinhardt solos and just try to copy, basically just trying to copy. And then it's been like on and off, basically, because I had some times where I was really focused, like basically this time around like London Symphony and like starting in Luxembourg, I wasn't doing most jazz. But then COVID happens, and then I was stuck in Paris, and then, you know, like not during the lockdown, but after lockdown, when still the orchestras, they were closed and there's not much happening either.
Do you have any advice or any tip, anything that you would say for the Clarinetistas del Futuro?
It will sound weird because like I feel we tend to have a lot of things about achievements, you know, of like winning audition and making recordings or whatever, you know. And the thing is, I really genuinely believe that this is not what you should aspire for, what you should be, you know, like looking for, because it's more like a, you know, like a end of the process. It's more like a conclusion of something that is more important. Is like, how good is your music, how in love you are with your instruments, and how do you like to play the music, you know. And as in my opinion, for example, I came to this first audition in LSO, I just wanted to play orchestra. I had no idea what it was like to play bass clarinet, you know, like, and this was a good kind of starting point, you know. It's a good thing to believe in, that I want to play more, I want to do things, and then things will happen to you. And it's impossible to say what, you know. It's impossible to say you're gonna win this audition. It's impossible to say. The only thing we can know for sure is that if you play good music and you're like passionate about it, and you do everything you can, you know, to practice, to go to the teacher and stuff, even though it doesn't work like you want, like something good will happen. Something amazing will happen to you, and you will find a way to make music, to have maybe a professorship, or like to have a position somewhere, or you will find your way. But don't say, I want to be the new player over there, or like whatever, you know. And in the same kind of thing, I was thinking the other day also, like, it's a funny thing, like relationship we have with our instruments, and somehow getting into the professional life of musician, like, you know, being a musician, you can get all of this stress of like money, income, making concerts, practicing for your teacher, or all of these things. But it's always good to remember, like, the real reason why we play the music is that just because we like it, and we play. We don't work, we play, you know, like even the word. And I find sometimes important for me, at least, to sometimes come back to the like intimacy relationship I have with my instruments, you know, because obviously you have like a lot of concerts where you put this not in danger, but like, you know, you're testing your relationship with the instrument when you're on stage, and when it's not the time to fuck it up, you know, sorry for my language, but like to mess it up. And it's like if you have like a relationship with someone, you know, you have like the society moments where you're like kind of broadcasting your relationship to others, you know, you're like, yeah, we are really good together and stuff like that. But somehow it's also important, if you're like in a relationship, to, you know, like reinforce like the intimacy that you have with someone, to have like closeness moment. And with instruments, I think it's the same. I feel you need like some intimacy with your clarinet. You need to be really deeply in love with what you're doing, so then you can actually show it to the other ones. And in concerts, actually, people will enjoy so much to see a player that enjoys playing the music. And this is what we look for. We don't look for someone who's like amazingly, like, obviously we want someone who can play and who can do all of these things and stuff, but like most of the audience, they don't know anything about the instruments. And even if you do auditions, for example, like maybe in the past you're gonna have like 2 or 3 clarinet players, but like the other ones, they're gonna be flutists, violinists, cello, they don't know a clue about the instrument. But they can feel if someone is having fun and someone is actually liking what he's doing. And so, yeah, that's getting like even more important to me now. And I just, you know, and that's why like playing jazz can be then find your way. If the funniest for you is playing jazz, then like for me, for example, this is a good way to reconnect with my instruments. Even though I don't have a big professional life with jazz, I connect with it doing this because I feel silly. I feel I'm just playing whatever I want, and that's good. Someone will have, I don't know, maybe playing Bach, you know, like a solo Bach pieces, or practicing technique scales, you know, but just feel something that feels home, feel intimate. And then if you have that very strong, life as a musician will be pretty sweet.